Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. Now, I know it's been a few days of there not being either this or Homestuck, and that's because of personal issues, but until I get through this section of the SCP Foundation Wiki Let's Read, I think I'm going to put Homestuck on a temporary hold so that I can get through this quicker. I'm 50-50 on also putting games on hold until I can get through this quicker, because to be completely honest, I want to try to get a substantial way through this wiki page before I go to play the SCP Containment Breach game for Halloween. And if that means that I gotta post nothing but 2 episodes of this 5 days a week until Halloween, I will. But time will tell. In the meantime, Homestuck's on hiatus until I get past A-9 Resurrection. So, today we're going to be trying to get through Incident 0, the day everything changed. And a little synopsis thingy is, the call, like many of the worst things in life, came at 1 o'clock in the morning. Or 1 in the morning. Also, YouTube has started doing the thing where they get mad at me if my videos are offensive. I don't know if they're offensive because of what's in this wiki. I don't know if they're offensive because I say fuck a lot. But I only have 133 subscribers, so quite frankly, I don't give a shit. Now then. Oh, it's right there at the beginning. The call, like many of the worst things in life, came at 1 in the morning. Adrian groaned and rolled over in bed, reluctantly separating himself from the beat's warmth and softness and scent. Beatsis? Beasts? Is that supposed to be, like, the possessive warmth of a beast? I don't know what the hell that's supposed to be. Anyway, one hand fumbled on the nightstand for the cell phone, nearly knocking a half-drunk glass of water over a dog-eared John Grisham novel. Unless he meant Beats headphones, but there's not supposed to be another S after a word that already has an S. He flipped the phone open, silencing the harsh electronic tones, and put the device up to his ear. "Andrews," he said groggily, "talk to me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I'm sorry, Adrian," a soft, calm voice said. "I must have the wrong number. This is Neo Ghost. I'm looking for Maddox." What? Adrian took a closer look at the phone he was holding. Damn, he really had grabbed Beats' phone by accident. No, you got the right number. I'll put Beatrix on the line. Okay, I guess that's supposed to just... Well, they got the apostrophe right that time. He hit the mute button, rolled back over in bed, and shook his sleeping lover's shoulder. "Beats," he whispered. "Go away!" Beats grumbled, pulling the sheets over her head. "Can't. It's Ghost." "Neil? The hell does he want?" Beats wondered, her voice muffled by the blankets. "Don't know, don't care." Andrew shoved the phone into her hand. "I'm going to the bathroom. Let me know if it's something important." Beats let out a low groan. "Maddox," she said. "No, Neil, I don't want to answer why Andrews has my phone at 1 in the morning. It's none of your business." Adrian yawned and climbed out of bed. He stumbled into the bathroom and took a moment to relieve himself, morosely staring at himself in the 3/4 length mirror located behind the toilet. Whoever had placed that mirror there hadn't really considered the effect it might have on a standing male urinating. Not that he had anything to be ashamed of, for sure, but still it was enough to make a man feel self-conscious. He kept his eyes locked on this face instead, the face of a 30-something psychology nerd with a crash course in lethal combat under his belt. The eyes of a man who'd seen horror and survived it. The body of a pasty, soft ivory tower intellectual dragooned into becoming a soldier. His eyes, his face, his body. He finished up, flushed, and washed his hands in the sink that he put the lid down, flicking his hands dry in the direction of a mirror so that the drops of water distorted his reflection. "Wish you wouldn't do that," Beat said. "Causes water spots." She stood in the bathroom doorway, her expression troubled. "Sorry," Adrian said. "What's up?" "It's Neil," Beat said, gesturing to her phone. "He wants to talk with both of us." Adrian frowned. He tapped his right forearm with the heel of his left hand. "Enemy?" She shook her head and gave him an open palm wave. "Don't understand." "Hang on," she said out loud. "I'll put you on speaker." She tapped a button on the phone and put it down on the bathroom counter. "Ah, alright," Neil's voice said. "Can you hear me now?" "Yeah, we hear you. What's up?" Adrian heard Neil sigh on the other side of the line. We have a problem," the ghost said. The low drone of the vacuum cleaner was the only sound other than the automated announcements over the airport intercom. She was glad of that. She'd chosen this airport specifically because it was the smallest one in the city, mostly commuter flights and private planes. If all went well, it wouldn't matter, but if things went wrong, that fact might buy her a few precious extra minutes. Her boarding pass was in her jacket pocket, and her suitcase was resting by her seat. She had a silver pistol case that didn't hold a pistol as her other carry-on. The clock said it was 23 minutes until boarding, just like it had the last 4 times she'd looked. She fought the urge to stand up and walk around. Drawing any kind of attention to herself would be bad. Though her heart was pounding, though her palms were sweating, knees weak, mouth spaghetti, she stayed seated in the ratty-ass chair, head bowed, trying to look to the world like an exhausted vacationer heading home after a long trip overseas. Tired of the world, tired of adventure, looking just for a chance to go home and sleep in her own bed and footsteps. The distinctive tramp of heavy boot soles against linoleum. She stole a glance down the hallway out of the corner of her eye and her heart sank. There was a man and a woman walking towards her. All of her escape plans died then. No point in trying to run now, she'd just die tired. She hugged herself tightly as the footsteps got closer and closer. They stopped in front of her. 2 pairs of heavy black combat boots, one pair men's size 12, the other a woman's size 9. She looked up. Adrian Andrews' face was gaunt, and his glasses, brown eyes had a permanent 1,000-yard stare. That was normal for him. Wearing sweatpants and a flannel pajama top wasn't. Adrian usually liked to dress like the academic he once was, all button-down shirts and gray blazers and threadbare slacks. He still carried himself like one, though, hands stuffed in his pockets and a boneless slouch, not the ramrod straight discipline of the trained soldier. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi, Iris," Adrian said, smiling weakly. "You know why we're here, right?" "Oh, okay." Iris Thompson, age 15, also known as SCP-105, curled up into a ball and began to tremble. "Yeah," she whispered, her throat dry and harsh. "You're here to bring me back." "Yeah," Adrian said, "we are." Iris swallowed hard. Her throat was dry. Her heart was pounding. "Dr. Dantensen," she whimpered, her voice taking a whining edge out of desperation. "You read his report, right? My powers are gone. I can't do what I used to anymore." She took a deep, steadying breath. "I'm not an SC..." "Iris," Beatrix interrupted, "cut the crap. We know Dantensen falsified his data. Neil's doing an audit right now. By morning, O5s will finish their voting and your release order is going to be countermanded." "And what if you're wrong?" Iris snapped. "What if Dantensen's right and I really don't have any powers anymore? What are you going to do? Lock me up again until I die?" Her voice echoed through the empty airport lounge. Suspiciously empty, in fact. She glanced around quickly. The entire place was empty. No more janitor vacuuming the carpet. No more tired old lady manning the solitary ticket booth. The only ones in the room now were Beatrix, Adrian, and herself. "Iris," Beatrix said, "listen to me." She dropped to one knee in front of the younger girl. "I know life on site is hard. It's fucking torture!" Iris said. "Language," Adrian interjected. "Would you both just shut up and let me talk?" Beatrice snapped. "I don't want to talk. I want to go home." There was a soft chime over the intercom system. Through the wide glass windows, a small commuter plane could be seen approaching the gate. "And that's my ride!" Iris picked up her suitcase and camera. "Goodbye." Beatrice looked up at Adrian, then over at the approaching plane. She made a small gesture with her hands that Adrian replied to with a shake of his head and a gesture of his own. She didn't seem to like that because she stood up and walked a few steps away, staring out the window at the airport tarmac. "Alright," Adrian said calmly. "We tried to do this Beatrix way. Now we do it my way." He threw a Polaroid into Iris's lap. It showed the interior mechanism of a small caliber pistol. Iris looked up, horrified. Adrian pulled a pistol from his pocket and put it to his temple. "I'm going to count to 3, he said, "and then I'm going to shoot myself in the head. You can stop me if you use your powers." Iris laughed nervously. "Adrian, stop! This isn't funny!" "I'm not joking, Iris. If Beats and I go home without you, we're as good as dead. May as well get a head start. 1. "Adrian, please!" Iris begged. She got to her feet. "Don't make me do this! You don't want to go back? Fine. But if you really want to go home that badly, you do it with my blood on your conscience. 2. "Adrian!" Iris screamed. "Stop!" 3. There was a hollow click. Iris dropped to her knees, holding the photograph with one hand. The firing pin of Adrian's pistol fell from her other hand and clattered to the floor with a glass-like clink. Beatrix was there almost immediately. She grabbed Iris around the shoulders and held her close as the tears rose and she began to sob. Adrian quietly put his plastic pistol back in his pocket and walked away. His hand shook so badly that he could barely open his phone up and dial a number that didn't exist in any phone book in the world. Ghost here, the voice said on the other end. Report. Adrian Andrews, Mobile Task Force Omega-7, Adrian said. Agent Maddox and I have just captured a confirmed humanoid anomaly. Reopen file SCP-105 and disregard prior data suggesting loss of anomalous abilities. Understood, Agent, Ghost said. We will prepare a containment cell for your return. A pause. Was there anything else? Was there any... Neil, tell the O5s if they ever ask us to do something like that again, Beatrix and I will both tender our resignations. That was the worst fucking thing I've ever had to do, and that includes vivisecting live cats. Adrian, you know I'm doing the best I can. This latest incident doesn't help. Neil, Dan Tennyson did what he did because he's not inhuman enough to treat a bunch of teenage kids like zoo animals. You steal people away from their families, lock them up in cells, and treat them like... Look, Adrian, I understand. Believe me, I do. But we can't talk about this on an unsecure line. Get back to Site 17 ASAP, and we'll figure out what to do then. I'll do what I can with the O5s, but if Iris doesn't come back to us, I'll have no leverage at all. Do you have transport? Old Fritz said he'd have a heli waiting for us at the pad. We'll fly into the nearest site and wait there for further instructions. Do that, Ghost said. There was a long pause. Look, for what it's worth, Adrian, I think we have a solid chance of at least letting the less dangerous humanoid anomalies socialize a bit more often. We can use this incident as a demonstration of how isolation isn't helping their emotional states. Save it for when we meet in person. I'm technically still on leave. Andrew's out. No one noticed the unmarked black helicopter on the helipad or the 3 passengers walking across the tarmac. That was as it should be. Adrian carried her bags as Beatrix helped Iris up into the helicopter. The teenager's movements were listless, sullen, not surprising. Where to? The pilot asked as Adrian climbed in after the 2 women. I don't give a shit. Just get us to the closest Foundation site as fast as you can. Yellowstone then. Be a couple of hours. Whatever. If you need me, I'll be in the back. Adrian left the cockpit and took his seat in the helicopter's cargo area. Iris was curled up in her seat, hugging her knees. She gave him the angriest glare as the rotors silently spun up. She hates her guts, you know. Beat sat down next to Adrian as the vehicle lifted off. So long as she's alive, she can hate all my guts from my pancreas all the way to my colon. Aren't you going to talk to her? Won't do any good. She hates me. You talk to her. Why do I have to be the one that consoles the angry, rebellious teenage girl? Beatrix grumbled. You're the trained psychologist. Yeah, but you're the woman. Aren't women supposed to be, like, you know, naturally nurturing and shit? Beats punched him in the arm hard. Ass. Just for that, I'm making you do all the paperwork on this one. She walked to the other side of the cabin to sit next to Iris, who pulled away and pressed up against the cabin's window. Adrian sighed and pulled out a small red notebook from his pocket. He uncapped his pen and began to write. Retrieval mission a success. I'm listening as recovered under pain of death from SCP-173. That'll sound good on the report. Agent Andrews? Adrian awoke from his nap, bleary-eyed and sore from sleeping, sitting up and buckled into his seat. Andrews, he said to the intercom, go. You asked me to let me know when we're 10 minutes out so you could call Yellowstone Station. Well, we're 10 minutes out. Yeah, sure, Adrian said. Wait 1, I'll come up to the cockpit. He unbuckled his harness and made his way to the front of the helicopter. You got an extra headset? Sure, pilot said. Crew chief's position, over there. Thanks, Adrian said, picking up the headset and slipping it over his head. Patch me into the site. Which site? The pilot said. To site... Adrian's brow furrowed. I can't remember. Where are we headed, pilot? I'm not entirely sure, sir, the pilot said, frowning. I could have sworn... Adrian looked out the front window, his eyes widened. Pull up! He screamed. Ahead of them, a snow-covered mountain flickered like a poor quality VHS tape and exploded. Okay, cool. I just want to go to part 2 then. Adrian? Adrian? Adrian Andrews' eyes shot open. Beatrix was leaning over him, a worried expression on her face. His jaw hurt and his teeth tasted like pennies. He sat up slowly, groaning as the world spun around him. The low vibration of the helicopter's rotors setting a counterpoint to his throbbing headache. What happened? We hit turbulence, Beat said. You hit your head. I think you're fine, but I want you to lay still for a moment. No. What happened? Adrian repeated. Beats nodded. A volcanic explosion, she said. The world outside was on fire. How about yours? Casting a... Oh, she's not saying that. The world outside was on fire, casting a lurid scarlet light into the helicopter's interior. The Yellowstone National Park megavolcano must have erupted. If it was volcanic, we'd be dead, Adrian insisted. This was existential. He struggled to his feet and leaned over the pilot's shoulder. Pilot, switch to channel Theta Prime. Sir? There is no channel Theta. The pilot took a second look on the console, and suddenly there it was! An 11th channel amongst the 10 marked on the dial. Switching to channel Theta Prime, he said, flipping the switch. There was a burst of static, then a man's voice came over the comm system. Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? This is... Can you hear me? Thank God! Adrian breathed a sigh of relief. We're on our way. Is... Alright? Doesn't exist anymore. I'm all that's left. For God's sake, Adrian, something. The voice disappeared, and the last thing the man said vanished from Adrian's memory. Sorry. An entire Foundation site was gone. A man whom he was sure had been a close friend now no longer existed. He had never existed. He couldn't even remember his name. The signal disappeared in a burst of eldritch feedback. A brief click and the dial set itself back to a number that existed in reality. Sir? The pilot said. What do we do now? The only thing we can do, Adrian thought. Inform 05 Council that we've just had a CK-class restructuring event, he said. And get us on the ground somewhere safe as soon as possible. There might be a chance to save something. Or might still be a chance to save something. The room was in chaos. It was the distinctly surreal kind of chaos that occurs when everyone knows that something horrible has happened, but no one remembers what it was. There was, however, one person who did know. He sat in his chair silently reviewing his notes, waiting for the chaos to die down, which it finally did when the nondescript person at the head of the table wrapped a gold-plated fountain pen against the mahogany surface. 10. Report. One said once the noise had died down. 10 was a slender, bookish man with olive-colored skin and long ebony black hair done into a shoulder-length braid. He was known as the quietest member of the Overseer Council, the one who attended every meeting, took notes, and said nothing. Some of his colleagues wondered what his actual job was. They would find out today. Let me start at the beginning, 10 said. We've established that the likely cause of the event was a researcher at the site who was doing research into anomalous effect miscability. In English, please? 11 demanded. He was combining SCPs and reporting on the results. 10 went on. He was working on improvements to SCP-2000. Wait a minute, back up, 9 interrupted. There's no SCP-2000. The Special Containment Procedures Directory only goes up to SCP-999. It does now, 10 said grimly. It didn't 3 hours ago. We've lost over 2/3 of the SCP we had in containment. That's impossible! One of the O5 shouted. How the hell could there be a containment breach of that magnitude when... Absolutely idiotic, someone else protested. You're telling me a single incident at one site caused... Silence! One barked. Silence? For the past 30 years, this man's job has been to watch and wait for exactly this kind of event to occur, one said sternly. Now that it has, I'm ordering all of you to sit down, shut up, and let him do his goddamn job. And maybe, just maybe, listen to him as if he's the expert on a subject that none of the rest of us know a single goddamn thing about. The silence continued. 10, proceed. 10 nodded and pushed his glasses back into place with his ring finger. Throughout the entire shouting match, he had remained calm and silent. Alright, let me change tact, 10 said. He shoveled the papers in his hand until he found the page he was looking for, took a deep breath, and continued speaking. SCP-2000 was a Thaumiel class. He raised a hand to forestall the obvious argument. Thaumiel is a containment class that apparently doesn't exist anymore, 10 explained. It refers to anomalies that, in themselves, are used to contain or protect from other anomalies. Thank you, 10. Proceed, 1 said. SCP-2000 was an emergency system designated Deus Ex Machina, 10 said, arbitrarily choosing a tense. The system was designed to trigger upon detection of a world-altering event. The way it works is a bit complicated, but it comes down to a series of cloning devices and mind control systems that can repopulate the Earth after a K-class event with cloned human beings with implanted false memories. You're saying a CK-class restructuring event was caused by a human cloning device? 9 asked. Of course not. But SCP-2000 was the final failsafe in case of human extinction. In order to keep the system safe in case of a temporal or reality-altering event, the entire thing was placed in the single most existentially secure site on Earth, inside Yellowstone Mountain, right above the Bloom. 10 raised his hands to forestall yet another chorus of complaints and questions. The Bloom is a black box SCP, he continued. It's one that, up until this point, has only been known to 4 overseers, myself, 1, 2, and 13. It's a reset button for the universe. Ten is oversimplifying, of course, one said curtly. Given the time constraints, I didn't feel that I had time to get into the whole trans-universal flower and multiversal observer aspects of the artifact, Tem said calmly. All everyone else needs to know right now is that the bloom seems to be the separation point between several different versions of possibility. The bloom itself is the most existentially stable point on the planet, which is why we placed our last resort species recovery system right on top of it. Unfortunately, Ten continued, Yellowstone Mountain happened to also be a massive megavolcano which is tectonically unstable and is overdue to erupt, which is why Dr. Null was assigned to find a way to duplicate the bloom's protective effects elsewhere, in the hopes of either moving or duplicating it at a more stable position. Unfortunately, something seems to have gone wrong. Rather than holding different parallel universes apart, the bloom is now drawing them together. There weren't Scranton reality anchors around this thing? Nine asked. The Scranton reality anchors around that thing are the only reasons why our universe hasn't already vanished, Ten explained. If I may? He tapped a control on his keyboard and an image appeared on the screen behind him. This is a false color representation of the current mathematical reality, he said. The blue spheres represent adjunct timelines and Schrödinger-type uncertainties. The yellow spirals represent the separate universes and timelines. This image was taken over the course of the past year at one of our temporal research facilities. He tapped a control, and the image began to move. And now a live feed. The image, which had previously been mostly static, now swirled and bubbled like yellow flowers floating in a sea of foam. Slowly but inexorably, the flowers were starting to come together. Timelines are like protons and antiprotons, Ten explained. When two separate but incompatible realities intersect, the result is mutual annihilation. With the bloom drawing neighboring realities towards ours, the end result is obvious. Ten tapped a control and the words projected sequence of events appeared on top of the screen. The first intersection of universes will result in a collapse of the space-time membranes that surrounded our reality. Causality will cease to exist. Events will no longer be distinct moments in time. Where Schrödinger's famous cat was once alive and dead simultaneously, there will now be two cats, one alive, one dead, both coexisting. This obviously cannot be possible, so both cats will be mutually annihilated. Ten grimaced. This annihilation reaction will occur in the release of unimaginable amounts of energy. The resulting energy will accelerate the convergence process, drawing even more parallel universes together at an ever-quickening rate. On the screen, the flowers folded into each other, swirled and vanished into gray foam until nothing else existed. And that, Ten said, will be it. ZK-class reality failure scenario, one said. I don't think we have a term for what's about to happen, but that comes closest, Ten admitted. Unless we do something within the next few hours, we're going to lose everything. We have a last-ditch contingency plan, which I'm not clicking because that comes up later. But the chances of it succeeding are minuscule. The only other option I see is to deal with the bloom itself, which will entail entering the Yellowstone Mountain facility. What assets do we have in place that can respond in time? One asked. Just one, Ten admitted. Mobile Task Force Omega 7, Pandora's Box. Team Able is currently out of contact, but we've managed to get in contact with the Force leader for Team Iris. He was in fact the agent who originally called in this alert. They will be ready to enter the facility within the hour. Does anyone have anything else to add? One asked. No one did. Then deploy them, he continued, and keep me informed. The O5 Council's leader turned at the 10, his dark eyes flashing intently. Get this taken care of, he said. Do whatever you need to do. You have full operational authority over all Foundation assets until this crisis is over. Ten nodded and replied. I'm going to take a drink of water. Sorry about the sound of that. Yellowstone Mountain had mostly stabilized. Rather than looking like a poor quality VHS tape, it was now just fuzzy and somewhat translucent, like an out-of-focus photograph. Every once in a while, it would flicker and change as some alternate possibility asserted itself upon this reality. 3 Humvees approached the landed helicopter at the foot of the mountain. 12 soldiers, 6 men, 5 women, and Effie, what the hell is Effie, disembarked. One of the soldiers, a huge man with ebony skin and a hint of electric blue eyeshadow above his intense eyes, emerged from the lead vehicle carrying 2 kit bags. He tossed them onto the ground at Adrian and Beatrix's feet. Good of you to join us, Agent William Abrams said, smirking. Though I bet you'd rather be alone in bed with Beats right now. Hey, what about me? Beats muttered as she rummaged through her kit bag for her BDUs. She carelessly stripped off her trench coat and nightgown, trading them for her combat gear. I was promised breakfast in bed, she said, pulling a slate gray sports bra over her head. Really? Damn, girl, you've got them wrapped around your little finger, Billy said, grinning. It's where I prefer to be, Adrian said. He too had stripped and was trading in his tuxedo print boxers for a more sedate pair of dark gray skivvies. What's the situation with Team Able? Dunno, Bill admitted. We're still trying to get in contact. They were inside the facility when the event occurred. Damn, Adrian muttered, pulling on a pair of gray digital camouflage trousers. Alright guys, load up for close quarters battle. I want you and Effie on rifles, everyone else take SMGs or carbines. Medium armor, no point in getting killed by some monster from another dimension while trying to fix a temporal anomaly. What about me? 11 pairs of eyes turned to look at SCP-105. The blonde teenager stood in the doorway of the helicopter clutching her silver pistol case. I don't have my kit, but I can help. Non-Omega 7 personnel will not participate in this operation, Adrian said curtly. Adrian, those are my friends! Non-Omega 7 personnel will not participate in this operation! Pilot, get this SCP object back into containment as soon as possible. If it gives you any trouble, you are authorized to tase it and take it back home unconscious. Adrian deliberately did not look as he heard the girl begin to sob. He kept his eyes locked on his gear as he heard Beats load SCP-105 back into the helicopter, heard the rotors spin up, and felt the vehicle take off behind him. Damn, Billy said. That was fucking cold. Right now, she's a liability, not an asset. The sooner she's out of the operating area, the better. Keep telling yourself that. Me? I think you just don't want to take her into that, Billy said, gesturing to the still flickering mountain. Adrian's reply was interrupted by a slender androgynous... Sorry, my window's moving. Slender androgynous figure jogging up, holding a laptop computer. We've made contact with Team Able, Agent Fatima Workwise said. He wants to talk to you. Fuck. She gets better and better. He accepted the laptop from Effie. Go for Team Iris. Jesus! Or, Jesus! That last exclamation was for the scene on the laptop computer. An entire hallway splattered with blood, crazily swinging fluorescent lights hanging from the ceiling. Panic shouts and the sound of gunfire from off-screen. But the thing that had prompted the profanity was the man lying on the lab table. Tall, cold, olive-skinned, black-haired, skin covered in scarlet tattoos. His body below the waist was an explosion of gore. Andrews, Abel rasped. Report. Adrian breathed deeply, the gorge rising in his throat. It took him 3 deep breaths to recover. Team Iris is ready to breach and enter, Adrian said. All present and accounted for except Iris Actual. Good. Abel closed his eyes for a moment. I am done killing for a time, he said at last. You will take command of this operation. Adrian felt cold. Sir? Squire is next in the chain of command. Squire is a warrior, as am I. If I did not succeed, he will not either. This problem requires a scholar. Mind, not muscle, will win this. The tall, dark-haired figure on the screen collapsed and exhaled deeply. Did not move again. The camera shifted, revealing the grime and soot-stained visage of an older man with ginger hair, shot with silver. You heard the man, sir, Agent Squire said. Orders. Shit. Alright, where are you guys holed up? Security Station 9er. We're pretty safe here, but there are hostages roaming the halls. We've taken quite a few casualties and are currently combat ineffective. Squire smiled grimly. Just another day in Pandora's box, I suppose. Alright. Adrian gestured over his shoulder, felt a map being pressed to his hand. Thanks. He said, unfolding the map on the hood of the Humvee. Alright, he repeated. Security Station 9er. We'll enter... Adrian frowned and shook his head. His vision kept getting blurry, and every time he blinked, the shape of the hallways changed. Damn it! The map keeps changing on me. You should try walking through those hallways sometimes. Squire, grim smile widened. Real pain in the ass, what with the walls trying to eat you alive. The seconds ticked by as Adrian glared at the map for a few more moments, then gave up. Alright, wait 5, he said to the laptop computer. He picked up the map and carried it out of the computer's field of view, waved his hand in the air in a small circle to rally the soldiers. Team Iris! Huddle up, I need some ideas. Okay, part 3. Okay, so... whatever the hell is going on with this, the multiverse is ending. So let's see what's going on now. General Bow's paternal great-grandfather had died at Gettysburg under the command of General Armstead during Pickett's famous Doomed Charge. He had been one of the brave Confederate soldiers to cross the stone wall at the Bloody Angle, had been shot in the gut by a damn dirty Yankee, stood his ground as his comrades in arms retreated, and used his last breath to stab a filthy Irishman in the heart. It was a story passed down on his father's side of the family as an example of the courage and bravery of the Bow bloodline. General Bow's maternal great-grandfather had also died at Gettysburg. He'd been a member of the 69th Pennsylvania, one of the brave men who defended the stone wall at the Bloody Angle. He'd shot a filthy slave-owning rebel in the belly and stood at the center of the heaviest fighting at the Confederacy's high water mark, but when the enemy retreated, he hadn't noticed that the one of the damned Johnny Rebs weren't quite dead. The cowardly Southerner bayoneted him in the heart as he leapt over the fence, and the two of them died in each other's arms. There was no way of knowing whether General Robert Ulysses Abraham Jefferson Bow's great-grandfathers had really killed each other at the Battle of Gettysburg, but it made sense to him. General Bow was a man at war with everything, including himself. He was a scholar who had chosen a career in the military, a scientist who studied the unscientific, a soldier without a war to fight. Internal conflict was his raison d'etre. I don't know how to say that the right way because I am not French. 9/11 had been the worst day in American history for many people. Not so for General Bow. For the General, the worst terrorist attack on American soil had meant a chance to put into action the plans he'd been making for years. It was a chance for his secret negotiations with the shadowy organization known only as the Foundation to be brought into the relative light of Black Ops. The last few years had been very good for General Bow. Or Bowie. I'm gonna go with Bow. Multiple successful operations overseas have resulted in increased funding for the Bow Commission's projects on the ship. First, he said as the leader of the Overseer Council sat down across from him, you need to assure me that what's going on at Yellowstone isn't a terrorist attack and it's going to be taken care of. The Overseer said, Yellowstone is not a terrorist attack. It is more like an accident in weapons development testing. The situation will be resolved within the next 24 hours. Good. General Bow said, I'll hold you to that. He jotted down on a note on a pad of sketch paper. I need a situation report. The Overseer said, Yellowstone Mountain is currently in temporal and existential flux. Aside from that, we're still trying to access the damage. Due to the CK-class restructuring, all of our special containment procedure databases have desynchronized. China, Korea, Japan, and Russia branches are all showing different file numbers for different objects. We're currently sorting them out by using the American database as a baseline and affixing a suffix to the foreign branches' desynchronized entries, but it is a lengthy process that might never be fully resolved. I disapprove of your organization having foreign outposts, General Bow reminded the Overseer. I was afraid that something like this might happen. The Overseer said, You were concerned about the security of our foreign offices. This is hardly the same thing. Nevertheless, it is the opinion of this commission that the Foundation's foreign offices now represent an unacceptable security risk. General Bow turned to the next page of his sketchpad, jotted down another note. Following the end of this current crisis, you will present a plan to decommission them and consolidate your anomalies in American containment sites within no more than 5 years. The Overseer said, We were promised oversight of our own operations. Relocating our inventory will be problematic. This is not to mention those anomalies that cannot be relocated due to the size or other factors. That was before you idiots blew up Yellowstone Mountain, General Bow said, and before you lied to us about the state of your weapons development division. The Overseer said, We have not... I know about Project Olympia, General Bow interrupted. Your scientists created a line of production model super soldiers and somehow neglected to report that to the Commission. I've read about the capabilities of the Olympia line. Do you know how many American Special Operations soldiers have died since the start of the war? Do you know how many lives could have been saved? The Overseer said nothing. Your Foundation's had its fun for long enough. Time to put on your big boy pants and become part of the government. He folded up his sketchbook and got to his feet. I'll be in touch regarding the consolidation of Foundation assets into the Department of Paranormal Warfare tomorrow afternoon. The Overseer said, There is no Department of Paranormal Warfare. There will be tomorrow. The President and I will make sure of it. The General left the office without saying goodbye or asking for a salute. The Overseer remained in its seat after he had gone. This idea sucks, Adrian said. It was the best we could do, Bill said. Get ready. Adrian took a deep breath, revved the engine, and clutched the steering wheel tightly. The answer, as it turned out, had been fairly simple. Going in using the front door was out of the question. Too many hostiles roaming the halls, too much distance to cover surrounded by hostiles of every possible shape and size. On the other hand, there was the reality destabilization, namely the fact that Yellowstone Mountain was replaced with an empty field of geysers and hot springs for about 30 seconds every 30 minutes. Beatrix had done the math. A vehicle that traveled at approximately 30 miles per hour should barely have enough time to travel through the solid granite and arrive at the location of the main car park just as the mountain reappeared. It was kind of like driving through a bunch of swinging pendulums if the pendulums were universes and the metaphor was a little less forced. Adrian glanced at the other passengers in his Humvee. Phil rode shotgun, saw across his lap. Beats, Effie, and Vincent were in the backseat. Effie standing by to jump into the turret and man the 50 cal if things went bad. if things went bad. The universe was going mad. There was a goddamn mountain flickering in and out of existence in front of him, and he was worried about things getting worse. 10 seconds, Bill said, and Adrian gripped the steering wheel even more tightly. 7, 6, 5. Adrian put the vehicle into gear just as Bill said 5. Started accelerating as Bill said 3. Had a horrible moment when he thought that the timing was off and they were about to drive straight into a granite wall, and then the mountain disappeared and they were driving along a flat volcanic plain. Adrian ignored the other vehicles around him, ignored everything but the broken road before him and Bill's voice counting down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then the flat plains disappeared and they were driving through a parking garage with flickering fluorescent lights and blood all over the ground. And the wall was getting close, so damn close. Adrian slammed the brakes and the tires squealed and the Humvee skewed left and it slammed into the concrete wall and went crunch. Contact right! Bill shouted. His saw fired off 3 short bursts. I guess that's a sawed-off shotgun. Vincent was screaming something, then Adrian heard the staccato chatter of Beatrix's submachine gun, and then came the low, steady thud of the 50 cal opening up, and then silence. Adrian glanced out the right side of the vehicle. Something big, gray, and humanoid lay on the ground, now riddled with bullets and breathing its last. At the front of his head, where a face should have been, was a blank, grayish nothing. A wet, bloody gurgle from the back. Adrian turned to look. He immediately wished he hadn't. Vince was slumped against the door, twitching and gasping. The entire front of his head, with his ears forward, was just gone. Effie drew her pistol, put it to his temple, and fired once. The thing that had once been Vince stayed, went still. Adrian swallowed hard and turned away. Sound off! He shouted into the darkness. This is car 2, came a shout from behind him. Fredrickson! Everyone's fine, but the back end of the car is stuck in the wall. Shit, Adrian whispered. The timing must have changed. He took a deep breath before asking the question no one wanted to answer. Car 3? A long pause. I can see their front bumper sticking out the wall behind me, Fredrickson shouted. That's it. Silence again. How about you? Adrian glanced into the back of the Humvee. Beatrix was wiping off her bloody face with a shaking hand while Effie and Bill wrestled Vince's body out of the back seat. One casualty. It's Vince. Fatal. Another heart beats forth of silence. Shit, Fredrickson said. Alright, what's the plan? Can you see us? Adrian asked. Yeah, I can see your taillights. Then disembark and grab what you can. Move your squad up and we'll proceed from here on foot. Roger, moving, Fredrickson said. Okay, so before I continue, okay, yeah, the next thing is going to confirm this for me, never mind. Adrian rubbed his upper lip, despair setting in. 1 minute into the mission, and Team Iris had already suffered 5 casualties out of their original 14. Even for Pandora's box, those were not good figures. He checked his carbine, slung it over his shoulder, and climbed out of the driver's side door. Something squished under his foot as he stepped out of the car, and he shone his flashlight to see what it was. It was a face. Vince's. Adrian allowed himself a moment of revulsion before closing his eyes and doing his breathing exercises. His fingers clenched tightly, gripping a scalpel that didn't exist. Okay, so... it sounds like as they were driving around, their timing was off and it cost Vince his face in the, dimensional shift. Let's see, so, entire front of his head from his ears forward was just gone. He was slumped against the door, twitching and gasping. Put a gun to his temple, fired. Okay, so yeah. They were driving through the mountain that was in temporal shift, didn't quite make it. One car is inside the mountain and everyone's probably dead because basically Nightcrawler going through a wall wrong just happened. So, Vince lost his face. Car 3 is now a part of Yellowstone Mountain. And half the back of Car 2 is gone. Anyway, there were a lot of different things to think about when skulking through a monster-ridden facility in the middle of a temporal flux event. One is Nightmare. Another is Death Trap. Omega-7 called it movement through hostile territory. Single-file line, weapons raised, checking and double-checking every corner and intersection. Communicating only through hand gestures, taps on the shoulder, and squeezes on the leg. Squeezes on the leg. There's another series of corridors and doorways to be checked, cleared, and moved through. They encounter no further hostiles, although they could on occasion hear growls, grunts, and screams from deeper inside the facility. The odd flickering and fuzziness faded away as they proceeded further and got closer to the Scranton reality anchors at the heart of the base. All in all, their movement was quick, professional, and by the numbers. The thing lying outside Security Station 9 resembled a hugely obese human being, albeit one that was over 9 feet tall and covered in oozing sores and tumors. A large number of rotting, disintegrating corpses lay all around it, most of them dressed in the uniforms of mobile task force personnel. At least one of the least decomposed was an older man with ginger hair shot with silver. Squire had died in close contact with the monster. His corpse still held a tarnished knife in one hand. The other was sunk wrist deep in the rolls of fat around the creature's neck. They were attacked shortly after you entered the facility, a low voice said in an unfamiliar accent. Unfortunately, they were all dead by the time I arrived. The 9 surviving members of Mobile Task Force Omega-7 turned to face the figure stepping out of the shadows. He was very tall and handsome, and his arms were made of steel. Kane! Beatrix breathed. She lowered her weapon. A moment later, a gesture from Agent and the rest of the Omega-7 followed. I would not approach the corpse too closely if I were you. The tall Semitic, I guess that's Semitic looking man said. Even dead, the noxious fumes could prove fatal. Team, fall back, Agent ordered. Masks on. Rally at Conference Room 6. Fredrickson, take point. He spared Squire one last look as the team retreated. The old man's body had dissolved into slime, leaving only a goo-covered skeleton behind. The dagger had corroded to a clump of rust, and a few moments later even that had crumbled into a reddish-brown dust. Alright, Adrian said to his squad leaders as the rest of the team took up rest positions inside the conference room. Let's review this situation. Liquids. Green all around, Beatrix said. Untainted, plenty of reserves. Ammunition? Full loads on my team, Fredrickson said. Effie and me are down 1 mag each. Reloaded from vents picked up as spares. We're green, Bill said. Alright, no injuries, KIAs are leave in place. As for mission essential equipment, Adrian scoffed and shook his head. At this point, guys, I'm not sure what our mission is anymore. Team Able is down, presumed KIA. The 9 of us aren't going to make it much further into the site. If this were any other mission, I'd call it combat ineffective and scrub it. But it's not any other mission, Beatrix pointed out. This is it. We're all that's left. Right, Adrian said grimly. So I'm taking suggestions for ideas on what we should do next. Has anyone suggested, asking the ancient Sumerian whatchamacallit? Fredrickson said. All 3 of them turned to regard SCP-73. He alone had not entered the conference room and was standing in the hallway outside, calmly looking down the darkened hall corridors, his still hands clasped in front of him in an oddly demure fashion. Adrian and Beatrix exchanged a look. It's worth a shot, Beatrix admitted. Yes, Kane said. I do have some advice on what you can do to rectify the situation. Alright, Adrian said. Why didn't you say anything before? You did not ask. An answer is of no use if the question is not asked. Alright, Adrian repeated. Well, I'm asking now. What do we do? That will depend on your definition of the word we, Kane said. If by we you refer to you, the woman, and I, that is an answer I do not wish to give you. If by we you refer to your squad and in general, most of them will be of no use. Aside from you and your lover, the rest are irrelevant. I'm not sure I understood correctly, Fredrickson said after a long pause. But I think Kane just told us to fuck off and let you and Beats handle the rest. It would appear so. Beats? The way I see it, Beatrix said, Kane's the only one who has any ideas, which means he's already gone 1 step ahead of the rest of us. I say we do as he suggests. She gave the tall man a cold glare. Alright, Adrian said. Then we're decided. Beats and I will go with Kane. As for the rest of the squad, Fredrickson, you're in command now. I suggest you take the rest of the team and retreat to our starting point. There should be an exit in about 15 minutes. Begging your pardon, sir, but all 3 Humvees are fucked. No way we can run fast enough to make it outside the mountain before it re-solidifies, Fredrickson pointed out. Our only way out is through the front entrance. That's going to take you through the thickest areas of hostile activity, Adrian pointed out. Odds aren't good. So in that case, we may as well come with you, right? We're dead if we try to escape anyway, so might as well join the suicide mission. Look, Fredrickson, sorry, Adrian, Fredrickson said. You put me in command of the squad, remember? This isn't up to you anymore. We're coming along. Alright, form up on me and let's get started. And elsewhere in the facility, surrounded by the dead and dying, a stone cube opened up and a tall, naked man with scarlet tattoos all over his olive skin emerged once more into the world. Okay, so this is part 3. Let's move on to part 4 and I'll drink another thing of water. Okay, what the heck is this? SCP-22. I've already read SCP-22, but... what? SCP-PL-22. Okay, this is something else then. This is definitely something else. International Translation Archive? PL? What the fuck? Okay, so... there's a whole other thing then. And I will probably never see what the deal is with this unless I read it now, which I'm not about to do. So, as this happened in another site, a woman gasped as she collapsed to the floor, her arms and legs rapidly withered into nothingness as her skin hardened into stone. Despite her desperate cries, her companions could do nothing but watch in horror as her body quickly petrified, and then they too began to scream. And then this is 784 Incident 6. Okay, so... Adrian? Andrews tore his eyes away from the monstrous creature lurching along the path before them. Part ram, part slug, part flower garden. It tilted its bandaged head from side to side as it glided with unnatural grace through the shattered hallways. 3 nude women danced in slow circles around the horned figure, dressed only in copper helmets adorned with ribbons that fluttered in the wind of their passage. Beatrix sighed. Give me an honest assessment. Do you really think we're going to survive this? Adrian glanced at Kane, who was walking about 20 feet ahead of them, just a few feet behind the surreal procession. One of the nude figures approached the tall, out-skinned man, her every motion speaking of the promise of sensual delights. Kane simply smiled and nodded his head in acknowledgement, and the figure retreated, head bowed and hands clasped before her bare chest. If I didn't, he said at last, it wouldn't do us any good to prepare for that, so let's just say I do think we're going to survive this and proceed from there? Beatrix nodded slowly as if this were the response she'd expected. In that case, remember that conversation we had last night? About 3 months in Europe versus 10 minutes on the moon? Yeah? We'll probably do a bunch of leave after this, Beatrix said, stepping carefully along the carpet of rose petals strewn in the wake of the bulbous beast. 3 months in Europe wouldn't be out of the question. Want to come with me? Yeah, Adrian repeated. On our honeymoon? He swallowed hard. Sure, he said. Sounds fine to me. His hand found hers and squeezed it tightly. Up ahead, the procession paused at an intersection, turned right, and continued to dance, never missing a beat. Adrian, Beatrix, and Kane continued straight on into the darkness. Okay, so... You can't go home again. Oh, okay, this is a part of Part 5, then, of... Part 5? Part 5 of what? What is this? What is this a part of? I guess maybe it's a part of... I guess it's a part of... Is it set in here? I don't know. I have no idea when that's going to come up. And somewhere else, a man curled up next to a glowing green egg, holding it close to his chest. Fala nina fala nana, he crooned, stroking its cold green shell tenderly, which is SCP-10-IT, which is the International Translation Archive again. I don't even know how to get to this. Okay, apparently this is the Italian branch. How do I even get to that? Okay, it was not long before they reached a tall steel door with the symbol of 3 inward-pointing arrows within 2 circles painted upon its gunmetal gray plates. Kane stepped up to a security console at one side of the door, pressed his palm against the scanning plate. There was a loud click and a series of crunches as the door's locking mechanism released. From here, Kane said, I will follow you. It is necessary that the 2 of you enter first. Is this a prophecy? Adrian asked. An inevitability, Kane replied. Beatrix nodded. Then let's get this the fuck over with, she said sternly. She walked to the door, placed her hands on the door hands, and pushed. There was a loud crack. A high-pitched whirring sound like a dentist drill. 2 arms made of steel wires burst through the open door, grabbed Beatrix by the head, and twisted it hard. There was a sickening crack of breaking bone. And somewhere else, a man lay on a butcher's table, whimpering softly. Wordlessly, his tormentor sliced open his belly, pulled out his organs, and began expertly slicing into the tenderloin. As the man smiled in delirium, the butcher placed a small paper-wrapped package in his hands. Okay, so that's happening in France. Beatrix! Adrian locked his anguish, screamed away inside the part of his mind that still wept when it sliced open the belly of a living cat. The rest of him raised his rifle and fired at the steel doll as it dropped Beatrix's broken body to the floor. It was a good, clean, solid burst to center mass. The bullets flattened against the steel woman's bare belly and clattered to the floor. That high-pitched whirring sound grew even louder and higher pitched, screaming like a jet engine turbine. Adrian's rifle stopped firing, bolt locked back. He let it fall, drew the pistol from his holster, fired twice more. His vision was blurring. He didn't know why. All he knew was that his hands were moving on their own like a machine, like the creature Abel wanted him to be, like the thing his superiors wanted him to be. The steel doll stood, its joints glowed with bright blue energy, intricate gears within gears spun and whirred in the gaps between its plates. It tilted its head to one side and opened a mouthful of cogs and wires. Adrian dove out of the way, heat and ripping metal exploded behind him. Pain tore through his left leg, followed by a sudden numbness. He tried to stand, found that he didn't have 2 legs to stand on anymore. The steel doll slowly got to her feet from back where the back blast had hurled it across the room. And somewhere else, a woman screamed as a powerful beak tore into her face, ripping open her cheek and eyes. She struggled to get free, but her attacker was merciless, ripping off an arm with a cruel slowness. So that's happening in Japan. Then Adrian fled. He scrabbled away from the steel doll towards the dusky-skinned man who still stood smiling softly just outside the door of the chamber. Something in him screamed that this wouldn't work, that this could never work, but he had no other way. He turned, saw the steel doll revving up, joints glowing brightly. It streaked towards him, ready to punch through and rip open anything to get to the thing she hated so badly. The steel doll's fist smashed into Kane's face with all the force of a speeding train. The sigil on Kane's forehead flared blue, blindingly bright, illuminating the entire corridor like a camera flash. There was an explosion. The giant gynoid came apart in a shower of steel and silicone, shrapnel bursting forth like a detonating shell. The last thing he saw was a razor-edged shard hanging in the air. His pain-addled mind tracked the course of that deadly little shard all the way until it drove itself into his brain. And somewhere else, a squad of men struggling to get the doors to their chamber open froze as they felt a small tickle growing in their eyes and throats. Within moments, they were lying on the floor, gurgling out their last breaths as they struggled to breathe. The deaths were witnessed only by a shadowy figure who regarded the dying men with something that resembled pity. And that's happening in Denmark? And somewhere, Agent Fredersen screamed as a razor-toothed earthworm 14 inches long burrowed hungrily into his open eye. And somewhere, a man in an orange jumpsuit huddled in a hallway full of smoke and gas as a hooded figure in a plague doctor's mask glided by, muttering indistinctly about a cure. And somewhere, a woman turned and ran from a blank white mask hovering in the darkness of an infinite stairwell but could not escape the death that followed. And somewhere, a man sitting before a computer screen depicting a black and white map of the world saw the icon located over Yellowstone Mountain change from red to black. And in that period of time, Kane finished laying Adrian Andrews' bleeding body next to that of his comatose lovers. I don't think comatose is the right word for that. Stepped through the steel doors and entered the chamber of the bloom. It waited for him, resplendent in its infinite colors, iridescent petals stretching across the dimensions, slowly fading in and out of view as it turned gently into space. The cosmic flower at the heart of the world. The thing that had allowed humanity to try and try again when they had failed. The fruit of knowledge, the reflection of eternity. It had been so long since he had last been allowed to witness its glory. Kane heard an animal growl behind him. He turned, knowing already what he would see. His brother, the murdered murderer, stood in the doorway. A pair of black swords were clutched in his hands. His eyes were cold, dead, and motionless. Just as they had been after Kane's old hands had finished committing their one unspeakable sin. Kane's new hands, the ones made of steel and fire, clenched tightly. Blue flame erupted from beneath the joints of his artificial arms. They were matched by the crimson flames that burst from his brother's demonic tattoos. Abel took a single step forward. Okay, so this got biblical as hell. And Kane stepped aside, head bowed respectfully. Abel passed under the gates of pearl and fire and entered the chamber of the bloom. His dead eyes beheld the text inscribed upon the bloom and runes deeper than a man's arm, burning like gold upon the glassy petals that spanned universes. A cruel smile touched his thin lips. He laughed as he raised his hand above his head. The sword that burst forth stretched from his fingertips all the way to the stars and beyond. It swallowed up all the light that fell upon it, sang of death in the silent tune, smelled of the void between worlds, devoured light and heat and life and hope. He slashed down once, and the blade sliced through the gleaming petals and embedded itself deep in the heart of the bloom. And somewhere, a man sitting before a computer screen depicting a black and white map of the world blinked, and a green icon marked SCP-2000 facility appeared in Yellowstone National Park. And it had always been so. And somewhere, a man watched as a flickering video feed recorded the panicked last words of a woman running screaming down a flight of infinite stairs. And it had always been so. And somewhere, 3 men in orange jumpsuits carefully stepped out of a chamber that stank of blood and shit, eyes locked upon this thing that stood in the corner, not daring to blink until 2 men in white uniforms and body armor slammed the door shut, and it had always been so. And before I forget, this thing right here, that paragraph, I'm pretty sure is the opening of SCP Containment Breach. And somewhere, a new set of stone statues were carefully cataloged and put away in their safe by a blind man, working entirely by touch, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a white-coated researcher watched dispassionately as an emaciated woman in orange wept bitter tears as hunger and exhaustion finally took her life, mourning the child she had not known, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a plate with a perfectly cooked roast was placed into an MRI scanner, and its internal structure was carefully cataloged along with the mumbling of the man whom it had been taken from, and it had always been so. And somewhere, the torn-up body parts of an unfortunate Japanese woman were placed into a crematorium, as a Buddhist priest chanted solemnly before a small altar upon which her photograph and several offerings for an unfortunate soul were placed, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a tired worker closed up the crate on a set of technical equipment, including a UV light projector, scanning the serial number he entered into the system as Combat Gear Surplus, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a man sitting at a computer keyboard carefully studied the words on the screen, deleted some, typed in others, hit the save button once he was done. And it had always been so, for none existed in the world who remembered otherwise. Except one. 0510 opened her eyes. She picked up a phone on her desk and pressed a single button. We need to talk. 0510 is a girl. Oh, or a woman, okay. I had no idea. 1.10 standing silently before the great black cone, embedded down into the magma chambers under Yellowstone National Park's famous geysers. As always, the thorn was silent, inscrutable, black as the void, devouring all life that fell upon it. Is there a reason you asked me to meet you here, he asked. Yes, Ten said. I'm going to ask you a simple question, and I want a simple answer. She turned to face the other member of the Overseer Council. How long ago did the Deva civilization fall? One opened his mouth, then frowned. He swallowed hard, brow furrowed, jaw working. I'm going to ask another question, Ten said. Is SCP-343 God or not? Well, of course... Oh, one's voice trailed off again, a look of panicked realization. Final question, Ten whispered. What is SCP-1? One remained silent. Ten nodded. This was the moment she had been prepared for but had never expected to come. TK class scenario, she said. Broken timeline. The 4 members of the Overseer Council who met in Ten's office a month later were the only ones who knew about the Thorn, or what Ten insisted should be called the Bloom. According to my investigations, there is a 95% change that the TK event took place here when nearly half of the Omega-7 operatives were killed, she said, pointing to a hash mark drawn on her timeline of events. The official version of events recorded is that SCP-762 was responsible for their deaths, but the sequence of events as provided by the survivors have never lined up properly. Neither has SCP-762 ever given any explanation as to his actions. In addition, Ten continued, there is the issue of an agent listed in official records only as AA, with all official records of his full name lost or otherwise corrupted. Despite being later responsible for both his death and the death of his former lover, the sequence of events that led to his transformation are hazy at best, with multiple conflicting accounts present. Transformation. All of this evidence leads to one conclusion. At some point in the recent past, a massive CK-class restructuring took place that resulted in the breaking and repair of the timeline. But like a broken vase, the repaired timeline is flawed. Look closely enough and the cracks are evident. Events that don't line up, things that happen without a cause, mysteries left unsolved, not because the answer isn't known, but because we don't even know to ask the question. One nodded. And you say that this was the result of this thing you call the Bloom activating? No, Ten said. The Bloom, as far as we know it, does not repair timelines. It resets them. To continue the broken vase analogy, activating the Bloom will be like throwing away the broken vase and making a new one, mostly identical but with some subtle differences. This should be impossible. By us, yes, but what about Abel? What does Abel have to do with this, Ten wondered. Well, it was an observation that crossed my desk the other day. Ever since the death of Omega-7, SCP-762 has not manifested its blaze since. Not once, Tu explained. And then there was the thought I had that it was an interesting coincidence that its blaze were so similar to the substance that makes up the Thorn. My working hypothesis had been that Abel's blades were somehow drawn from the same source of the thorn, or maybe the thorn itself, but if what you say is true, then this bloom was somehow altered into the thorn about the same time that most of Mobile Task Force Omega-7 was killed in an incident that took place nearby. You think that Abel was responsible for transforming the bloom into the thorn? Ten wondered. Not just Abel's, 2 pointed out. SCP-73 was also found at the site of the Omega-7 massacre, which has always been inexplicable since he was last reported 600 miles away at Site-17. 2 shrugged. Maybe we should be asking them. 1 contemplated this in silence. No, he said at last, but 1 interrupted Ten's objection with a raised hand. The middle of a high wire act is the last time to begin juggling swords, he said. With SCP-2000 rolling out in the next month or so, and Reza opening Series 4, the Foundation has enough to do with trying to fix this universe, much less worrying about what might have happened in prior ones. We put our house in order first before worrying about our neighbors. Ten glanced around the room. 2 was nodding his head in agreement. 13 was being 13. If you say so, she said, at last. Not just me. I'm going to ask you to take a binding and compulsory oath on this, 1 said. You will not, now nor ever, take any action to investigate the link between 73, 76, and the Thorn, or as you call it, the Bloom. Agreed? Ted nodded reluctantly. Agreed. In that case, 1 said, this meeting is adjourned. All transcripts from today's meeting are to be considered cognito-hazardous artifacts and subjected to special containment procedures, class Sub-Rosa. You will submit all of your materials, including visual aids and notes, to Ryza for containment by the end of the day. This meeting is adjourned. And elsewhere, a man sat on a hilltop looking out towards the sunset. He contemplated what had come before, what would be in the future. The road to this place and this time had been a long and winding one. Like many roads, there had been points where the path had been rough and difficult. And perhaps it was true that the destination was not nearly as pleasant as he had been led to believe. But the journey? That had been memorable. He supposed that made it worth it. He picked up his walking stick and took a drink of water from his canteen. It was a long walk back home, and he was looking forward to a hot shower and a good meal once he made it back. Okay, so that's Incident 0, the day everything changed. Which I suppose means the fact that the universe has been completely rewritten. Well, not completely rewritten. It sounds like the bloom was the Garden of Eden. Cain let them die, let Adrian and Beatrice die to the angel guarding the Garden of Eden. And when he walked in, let Abel cut down the tree of life. Which turned the bloom into the thorn, which is something presumably not as good as what the bloom was supposed to do. Which is why there's random parts of the universe that are not the way they used to be, and why Adrian is apparently transformed into something else and nobody knows he's called Adrian anymore. Which is weird, because I'm wondering now, when did this happen? Because there were earlier entries that did mention Adrian. I think Adrian did some things in SCP-01. He was one of the people who dealt with that one SCP-01 entry where the universe was ending, and he was helping put down some of the effects of it. So, I don't know if that means that that version of SCP-01 did happen, and the bloom reworked everything into the universe that it was up to Incident 0? Or what? But anyway, this has been a Naji Sasuke. This was episode 28, I think, of Let's Read SCP Containment... Okay, 27. Of Let's Read SCP Foundation Wiki. And in the next episode, we'll check out some of the things in Part 1. There's a lot of things in Part 1. Girls' Night Out is probably going to take some time in and of itself. Really, there's no telling what's going to happen here. Maybe we'll find out what happened to Adrian. Maybe we'll find out if Beatrice is still alive. Maybe we'll find out what happened to Cain and Abel. The fact that there's an SCP coming up that's probably God. But, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Later.